All right. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Give it a minute. Hello. 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 Happy Monday. I see some thumbs up. Give it a minute. We have some folks to join. I had some technical difficulty last night, so folks might have just given up. Good Monday morning to you, Judith. Happy Monday to you. All right, I'm giving it a few minutes. I know this isn't my normal day to go live, and had some technical difficulty yesterday, so that kind of threw everybody off. So we'll see what happens. Happy Monday to you. Thank you, Kimberly. Glad to have you here. Hi, Cynthia. Welcome. Hope you all are having a good day. Pat. Oh, thank you. I enjoyed my time in Costa Rica. It was a great time. All right. Happy Monday, folks. Apologies for, well, first, thank you all for accommodating me yesterday afternoon when hi, Nichelle. I'm glad you're here. Thank you. Um, Thanks for accommodating me yesterday afternoon when I was spending time with some family, and then we were supposed to get together last night, and that didn't work because we've had a bunch of storms in the hi, Kitty, same to you. We've had a lot of storms happening in the Charlotte area. In fact, on Friday, as I was coming back from Costa Rica, um, my flight from Florida was canceled because of the storms. Everything was grounded. There was like really, really bad lightning, and I think the lightning, as I understood it, went on for like 3 hours. So it ended up throwing me into a version of planes, trains, and automobiles because I fly standby, and so the airlines obviously have to cater to the folks who have money invested in their seats, and so that threw me off, and I had to um, do some finagling to get home, but it worked out. And it wasn't that bad. I'm just one of the things that I have to do as I'm flying standby is making sure I know to just roll with the flow, um, and I don't mind traveling, so it works out well for me. Thank you, Pat. I appreciate that. So ended up yesterday evening when I wanted to reconnect with everybody, and you all were waiting patiently for me. I didn't have any power, and so my I could use my computer, well, because of the battery. I don't know how long it was going to last, but I had no Wi-Fi, and my phone was almost dead, so I knew it wasn't going to be successful. So I thank you all for accommodating me and understanding, and I thank Nichelle and Sharonda for checking in on me to make sure I was okay, and then letting you guys know what was going on. So I appreciate all of that. Happy Monday. I hope you all are not laboring on Labor Day, that you all are relaxing and resetting. That is what I'm doing for sure. Thank you so much. Um, I my time. Pat was saying she enjoyed my pictures from Costa Rica. I didn't. I think every picture I posted, I probably stole it from Stephanie or Katrina. I don't. I don't think I took a lot of pictures. Well, wait a minute. I took a lot of pictures of the scenery, the landscape, the monkeys. The monkeys were everything for me. I am a monkey fan. If I could have a monkey, I would get a monkey. I have loved monkeys for a long, long time. My niece and I share that the love of monkeys, and so my hope had been to see a monkey. I just said I wanted to see a monkey, and then several graced us with their presence, and they were just in the trees around the Airbnb we were staying in, and it was just fabulous. They were, I think they're called holler monkeys or something like that, and they make some noise. It sounds like dogs to me. At first, I didn't even realize I was hearing the monkeys in the distance. It sounded like dogs barking, and then you could tell when they were getting closer, and then they were in the trees, and they were so cute. Just they were literally hanging by their tails in the trees, eating. It was like flowers off of this one tree in the area, and they were hanging by their tails and picking stuff off of these trees, and they were so cute. Of course, I wanted one to come closer so I could pet it, but that didn't happen. Thank you, Pat. Um, so yeah, Catherine is saying happy do no labor day. Absolutely, peace and blessings to you. That's exactly what I'm saying. We are not laboring on Labor Day. Um, Pat, I think you're saying traditional glamping experience to um, navigating travel. Absolutely. Hi, Latasha. Good afternoon to you. Um, I realized I didn't even introduce myself, so we're just going to be all informal today. I usually do my introduction for folks who um, aren't familiar with the channel, and so maybe I should do it just in case somebody shows up and they have no idea what they've jumped into. So, as let me introduce myself. So, my name is Jewel, and I introduce myself, and I kind of share that I built a fancy kind of fancy tiny house in 2015, and since that time, I have shared my journey to hopefully inspire others who are interested in the movement. I do offer coaching and consultations to help others in their tiny house journey. I am on 10 years of tiny house living, and so I've got some wins and some losses and some expertise in there. So I do offer coaching and consultation to help others who are interested in the movement in tiny house living. And so when this goes live and I update it, you'll find links below the video to sign up to schedule with me to get on my calendar. And then as I'm doing all of that, I serve up a lot of representation in the movement. I want us to see ourselves. I want us to be represented. I want us to be able to also be successful in this movement. And so if you find this information, this video, anything we talk about helpful, I hope you will like the video, you'll share it, you'll subscribe to the channel, and then come back and join us and turn on the notification so that you'll know when we're live over here. So that's the intro for anybody who's not here on a regular. So anyway, so Costa Rica had a lot of time to do no labor. I think it might be one of the longest vacations I've had where I wasn't trying to um, not use all my vacation days and work some. Um, that kind of stuff where you're almost like sneaking in. Hello, Rain. Sneaking in a vacation in between work. I am, I think you all know, so I am, I turned in my notice on my birthday, August the 5th. and I am currently on long-term disability, and moving through the space of not working, which is this is the first time I have not worked since I was in the seventh grade. And one of the things, as I'm navigating all of this space and the learnings, um, and the resetting, spending time in Costa Rica with Stephanie Perry, who is Exodus Summit, um, the group she and Rashida um, organization they host, where they're encouraging Black women specifically to take sabbaticals and to rest and reset. And so it was a good time to be able to spend with her, also a friend Katrina, who, as Stephanie, as they refer to it, is bopping around. Um, and not and bopping around internationally, and that is their full-time lifestyle. um, so much intention in what they're doing and how they live, purposely resting. And so one of the things that really, as I've been working on resting myself, I've shared with you all that it is something that I'm having to learn to do, because it's not something is it's not something that we really focus on in resting. We're always moving and doing. You hear the statement where people say we should be, we're human beings and not human doings. And I think that's how it goes. If I messed it up, sorry, y'all. But anyway, one of the things as I was there in Costa Rica that just really stood out for me is how often we postpone our joy. And that often looks like, um, when I have this, I will then do that. When I have this amount of money saved, I'll be happy. Or I have this amount of money saved, I'll take a vacation. Or when I have a friend to travel with me, then I'll go somewhere. We do it from a physical perspective. When I lose some weight, then I'll do such and such and such. All of the if when. Sometimes it is even uh, combinations. When I lose weight, when I have more money, or when I have this job, or when I feel like I've achieved this thing. We postpone our joy until we feel like this thing has happened. And most times the carrot continues to move out. And or it might even be a date. In 3 months, I'll do this. Or intend to have this thing finished in 3 months, and then I'll go and do this thing, and I'll go be happy. And most of the time, it's something associated. Hi, Sandra. Something associated with joy and happiness that we're postponing because we don't feel we're, maybe worthy is a strong word, but worthy is the word that I feel right now. We don't feel we're worthy of doing this thing right now until we've done this, or we've completed this, or we feel like we have this title, or we have this amount of money, or there's so many things. I know you all can think of some things that maybe even you say to yourself, when the kids are this age, then I'll go do this. When the kids leave home, I'll go do this. And again, the thing that you're going to do is associated with joy, is associated with happiness. Um, Lorraine is saying, I'm living for it in the now. Our time is not promised. And that's absolutely it. Because holding on to, we're holding, it's like we've got our joy on layaway until we've accomplished something. Um, and it's not healthy. As Lorraine just said, the time isn't promised, and that is the thing that is really standing out for me more. Um, Especially having experienced, as I've shared with you all, um, my medical journey, especially having experienced some, random Saturday afternoon when I'm getting ready to go out and run errands and do all the things, and then I experience a mini stroke. Like, I didn't have that on my to-do list for that day, and it has changed. That experience has changed the entire trajectory of my life. And it is, there's so much positive from it, but I also know that it could have gone a totally different way. And that's the second time I've had a major medical experience that could have completely changed my life in a negative manner. And you think about all of the things that you're putting off as you're postponing your joy. I remember the very first time I had, it was 2007 when I experienced blood clots in both of, and bunches of blood clots in both of my lungs. And most people die from those die from one clot in 24 hours. And I remembered at that time, this was before tiny house living for me. Um, much earlier than me being really focused on being intentional in how I moved. And I remembered having glasses and dishes that I only used for special occasions, and clothes in the closet that were going to be clothes for special occasions. And some of those occasions, like some of the clothes I hadn't even worn because it was going to be for this special occasion. When I'm invited to this, or when I'm doing this, then I'll wear this. And then I had like everyday regular plates, sometimes paper plates for every day, but these nice dishes were over here for the special occasion. And then what you recognize is that special occasion has to be every day. That joy has to be experienced every day. Eat it. If these plates are so special that you want to hold them for guests, or you want to hold them for the special occasion, you should be eating on them every day. You shouldn't be um, postponing the joy, the happiness that these plates are going to bring your guest, and you're depriving yourself of that experience. Or these clothes that you're waiting for this special occasion. Wear them damn clothes. If you feel like this dress is going to bring you joy at this special occasion, put the damn dress on and go somewhere right now, and wear the damn dress. Um, it is the postponing, um, the feeling that I don't deserve. And again, worthiness and deserving are strong words, but I feel like subconsciously that's exactly what's happening. It might not be the intention, but subconsciously it's like, I don't deserve this right now until I do these things. And one of the other things that came out for me is, as I'm navigating this new normal for myself, is I really don't even, and I've said this before, I really don't know how to rest or relax. Um, because it was always going to be, once I got to this certain point, then I was not going to be, then I could relax. Like, I wasn't going to have to do these things, work, or all of this stuff. I was going to get to this point where I could rest and relax. But what I'm realizing is I should have been doing more resting and relaxing. And I'm not just talking about on the weekend. I'm not just talking about the occasional vacation. And I live intentionally, so I do have rest and relaxation. But the rest and relaxation now that I'm I'm struggling with is where you also turn off your brain, where oftentimes I know that I will be resting. Oh, thank you, Elle. I'm I'm relaxing, but my brain is also thinking of the 10 million things I need to do, and I'm making a plan in my head. Once I get up from here, I'm going to do this, 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 and this. That's not really relaxing, and I know that that is so much of how my brain operates. And so, um, you're not really relaxing. You're still doing all the things. Your brain is still moving. Your nervous system is still in action. And so now for me to be able to sit and, I mean, really do nothing, just sit and be in that space. And um, it's requiring a reset of my nervous system for the most part, because I don't know how to do nothing. It is an internal conflict for me to sit and just be still and not let my brain race, or not let my brain chastise me for resting, when I know that there are these things on the list that I should be doing. I take it back to, I was having this conversation with somebody last night, and I was talking about, with my friend Elizabeth White. You all know Elizabeth. I was talking to her about the times previously in life where um, I know I'd been laid off, and um, when you get laid off, sometimes you get a package. So you might have a package of a year, like a year. My thing was that I would never relax in that. So you got this package, and you know they're going to pay you this unemployment this severance package. That's what it is, a severance package. So you got a severance package, 6 months, a year, 18 months. I would hit the ground running as soon as that job ended, looking for a job. The anxiety of, I don't have a job, I have a child to feed, all of the things where in hindsight, I wish I would have taken 60 days, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, something of that time to sit and do nothing, to decompress from said job, because 9 times out of 10, 9.9 times out of 10, it was stressful as hell. Um, to sit and decompress and allow your nervous system to reset, and then go into the what is next. But the anxiety, maybe even calling it lack of faith, of lack of trusting the process, all of that tells you, I gotta get moving, I've got to fix this, I've got to find another job and get going, instead of being able to sit in trusting and in knowing and into that the next thing is going to come, that it is going to come when it's supposed to come, and it's going to be just fine. Because looking back, every single time I was laid off, I ended up in a better position, because sometimes you're laid off from jobs that you've been in for a while, and you've gotten complacent and comfortable, and you don't know that there's another job out there that's better suited for you, that's going to pay you more, it's going to have better benefits, it's going to let you work from home, like all of the things, because you feel like this is the devil I know, and so I'm sticking with this devil, when over here it's actually something that's better for you. And as I look back on every single time that I was laid off, something better came along, something that was better for my household, something that allowed me to do something better with, for my daughter. But in that gap time, you're not able to settle in. And again, you're postponing the joy, because you've got a little cushion, you've got a safety net there. And I'm not saying, squander all of the time, but I'm saying sit down for a minute and take some of that time and live in the joy and in the present and in that joy of breathing for this moment versus postponing the joy and moving right into the anxiety and the stress of finding something else, and the anxiety, and then you're back in somebody's job, um, and you're no better off, or you might be even worse off than you were from that last job because you didn't take the time to sit in some joy and sit in some happiness and reset your nervous system and just allow yourself to breathe that in. And I'm not saying anything that I haven't done. I've done all of this, which is why I'm saying I'm encouraging some of y'all to stop doing it as I'm encouraging myself. Um, the resetting of your nervous system is like a real thing. We don't think about um, how much stress negatively impacts our body. Pat is saying some of the ways that we postpone our joys, like we feel like we're letting others down. So you keep doing the thing or you postpone the thing because you feel like you're letting others down. There's so many ways that we postpone our joy. Um, and we all know stories of people who were working so hard and working consistently because they were trying to get to retirement. And then they don't get to retirement. Something happens and they don't make it to retirement. So they worked and saved their money. They worked their, as they would say, fingers to the bone. And then, I mean, and it happens. It's some of the saddest stories. They have a retirement party and then, very soon thereafter, they're no longer here because they've worked themselves to death, literally. And I see you all talking about the woman, the Wells Fargo employee who was found in her cubicle, just dead for 4 days. And y'all know I've worked at Wells Fargo, and I left Wells Fargo because they were requiring us to come into the office. In my opinion, not to get off track, but I feel like that, and this is part of our conversation, so I'm not getting off track. I feel like part of that speaks to the unnecessary return to work, return to the office, that they're forcing people to do. So many companies, Wells Fargo included, which is why I left and found another job. The return to office, sometimes they offer the hybrid model. You need to be in the office 3 days and you can work from home 2 days. Some people they're requiring to come in full time. Um, I worked at Wells Fargo for many years and worked 100% remotely, and they were negating all of those arrangements and requiring folks to come into the office. My entire team was in San Francisco. So what that meant is, and we worked via Zoom or Teams, okay, Zoom. So that meant I would have to go in the office, sit in a cubicle to be on Zoom with people in San Francisco. So I got to leave my house where I can do Zoom just as effectively, go sit in a cubicle to Zoom with folks who aren't even around me. That's nonsensical. And apparently this woman was in some type of situation like that. If she sat in her cubicle for 4 days and she was deceased, there was not one meeting they missed her at. There was not one person that she was supposed to meet with, that she didn't meet with, that could even recognize she's not here for 4 freaking days. That is the nonsensicalness of work. That is the nonsensicalness of, and we all know what's going to happen. Listen, they sanitized her cubicle and will be recycling it for said next person. They sanitized her laptop and recycling it for somebody else. There is no, I'm going to say these hoes ain't loyal. Um, they not loyal. So that is it. These hoes ain't loyal. Um, but they'll have you so stressed out. And again, I'm speaking from what I know. They will have you so stressed out that you end up in the hospital with a mini stroke. True story. Um, they will have you postponing your joy until you can't really enjoy your joy because your health is in such a shambles, or your nervous system is in such a shambles, or your anxiety is in such a shambles, you don't even know how to calm the hell down. I feel extremely sorry for that woman. I know at 99.9% they had her coming in the office under that new rule, and she didn't need to come in the office, and it was a whole damn waste of her time. She might even, I don't know, I don't think I've seen anything to say what the cause of her death was, but she could have been sick, and the requirement to come in the office was threatening her job. She could have been sick, needed her damn insurance because you need damn insurance, and so now I got to go into the office because they say I got to go into the office and I need my damn insurance, and who knows what happened. But we do know they didn't give a damn because she sat in her cubicle for 4 days. Is it Dauphine? My sister-in-law was 37 and had a newborn and died the very next day from a blood clot. I'm very sorry to hear that. That's awful. Um, the thing that, so my blood clots, so um, fast forward to the two surgeries that I've just recently had. One of the surgeries was what I shared with you all, was the last surgery was where they put two stents in the iliac vein. And the iliac vein is what brings the blood, they call it, it's in your, excuse me, your calf area. It is what brings the blood back up to the heart. Your arteries bring it down, the veins bring it back up. 1 in 5 people, this iliac vein is compressed. Oftentimes, one of your arteries is pushing that vein up against your. In my case, it was my spine, one of the discs in my spine. So, with it being compressed, that is likely what was causing, the blood wasn't flowing through that vein as it should have been, and that is likely what was causing me to experience blood clots. So again, this compression happens in 1 in 5 people, and so they went in and put two stents in, and to find this out, I had to have extensive venous imaging done. And again, I go back to why you have to advocate for yourself. I had to push them and push them and push them to find out what workups needed to be done so we could determine the cause of my blood clots. I had to push that. So found that out. They put the two stents in the vein to open that vein up so it would eliminate or reduce, I'm hoping it's eliminating the potential for me to have blood clots. But when I had the blood clots in 2007, this was old Jewel, who I don't really know her, the old person that I was. Then I had so many things to do. I had blood clots in my lungs for 3 days, and I had a very severe pain up under my left breast. And I was minimizing the pain. I was in such pain that I couldn't even sit up straight. And I was going into the office at Wells Fargo. But I couldn't sit up straight. That's how much pain I was in. And I had assumed I was working out, so I assumed that I had pulled a muscle. And when I finally went to the emergency room, it was because on day 3.5, it felt like somebody was, it woke me up. It felt like somebody was sitting on my chest and I couldn't breathe. And I was just gasping for air. And so I didn't want to pay for an ambulance. Now this is old Jewel. Didn't want to pay for an ambulance, and so I drove my silly self to the ER. And I was in there trying to tell them, I've got to pull a muscle. I need y'all to give me a muscle relaxer. And fortunately, the doctor was doing his job and he told me, yeah, it sounds like it, but let us do what we need to do some MRIs and some CAT scans and to see what's going on. And so fortunately, he basically told me to shut up and let him do his job, and I'm grateful. And that's when they determined that I had bunches of blood clots in both of my lungs. And the woman told me, what you said, as your sister-in-law died within 24 hours. And she said most people drop dead from one blood clot within 24 hours. And she said, you've apparently been walking around with these for about 72 hours. And she said, if I were you, I'd lay very still until we can get some medicine in you. And she scared me to death. And to the point where I couldn't even cry. And I'm a crier. Y'all know I'll cry in a minute. Um, I couldn't even cry. I was so scared to move. And the thing that I remember about that the most, outside of how close I was to death, and this was um, 2 weeks before my 40th birthday. The thing that I remember the most about that is a few weeks later, there was a young girl in Atlanta, and I was in Charlotte when this happened. There was a young girl in Atlanta who was pregnant, and so with me, blood clots usually start like in your lower leg, and most people feel the pain of them moving up your body, like through your leg. And sometimes you'll see bruising as they're moving up through your leg. As evidence with how much pain I was in with the blood clots, I have a very high tolerance for pain, and I will ignore pain sometimes, or I used to ignore pain, which isn't good. But I never have felt blood clots happening. Um, but this was a young girl, and she was pregnant, and she was telling them she had some pain, and it almost seems like they weren't paying her real attention to what her pain was. But because she was pregnant, they also couldn't do MRIs and CAT scans, and so she she ended up dying. She had a blood clot, and what happened, she ended up, the 911 ended up being sued. The emergency services ended up being sued because she had called 911, and she lived in, I think it was Cobb County, unincorporated Cobb County, or incorporated Cobb County. I think that's what it was. And they sent the ambulance to the wrong one of those, incorporated or unincorporated. I think it was two addresses in both areas, and they sent the ambulance to the wrong one. And there was a lawsuit. And so, as they were advertising the lawsuit, they kept playing the recording of this young girl calling 911. They played it over and over and over. It was like the one clip that they had from as they would advertise this lawsuit. I mean, talk about this lawsuit on the news. And it was a clip of her breathing, gasping for air, just like I was gasping for air. And it sunk so deep into my soul because I knew exactly what she was experiencing when she couldn't breathe. And the ambulance didn't get to her in time. And so that was kind of the beginning of me recognizing the fragility of life. Like I said, 2 weeks before my 40th birthday, when you absolutely aren't really thinking about your health and the fact that the clock is ticking, the clock is ticking. We don't have infinite time. We have an expiration. All of us have an expiration date that you don't know of. And so that the 24 hours, the fact that there was grace given to me, and the grace continues to be given to me to um, not experience the worst of the worst of what my medical experiences often offer people. And so I am very sorry to read that and understand that for sure. Um, Elle says, rocking gray and white hair. Embrace every moment of joy. My mama taught us to wear and use everything or give it away. What are we waiting for? Um, Absolutely. Michelle says she eats on her good dishes. All of her dishes are her good dishes. Absolutely. That was the lesson I learned from my blood clots. Like every day is the day. Nichelle is saying it's a struggle to balance rest and relaxation because working, I am a solopreneur, is how I am paying for my permanent global freedom. I understand that and can relate to that at 100%, but I feel like we are in that postponing of I've got to do this to get to this, I've got to do this to get to my permanent global freedom. What I'm recognizing is like if we're not practicing along the way, I should have been practicing really how to rest and relax and to absolutely do nothing, to reset my nervous system all along, because once you get to the point where you're at that place, you don't really even know how to handle it because you haven't been doing the drills, you haven't been doing the practicing to get to that, because you've been postponing the joy, you've been postponing the thing, you've been postponing the rest and relaxation until said date, and then you get there and you don't really even know how to do it because you've pushed it out so far and you've ignored the opportunities. You've not sat in the rest and relaxation or the happiness along the way when you need to be doing it now. Maybe not at the intense level that you intend to for your permanent global freedom, but if you don't practice it now, you're not going to know how to do it in that during that time period. And I can absolutely attest to that. Like in Costa Rica, I struggled. We had some conversations around that because I shared with them like I'm lost in trying to figure this out. In really being okay with, and my body needs it. It's non-negotiable basically for my body. I can't be stressed, I can't have anxiety, and so it is the internal struggle of like I've got to do this to save my life, but because I've been wired, I'm 57, I've been wired for so many years to go and to do and to think and to strategize and to figure this out and the like all of these things that have to be done. I don't know how to just do nothing. Ella saying this is your time and call and be led by spirit, your inner voice, intuition. Absolutely. Um, absolutely. Um, I'm sure you've been a great steward of your time. You're a great example of a Proverbs 31 woman. Thank you. My daughter gave me that scripture as a gift. I have it on my nightstand. I love that scripture. Thank you. Ella saying fear imprisons us and prevents us from stepping out on faith. Absolutely. And so much of our society is intentionally set to keep us in that fear. Um, and um, for us not to step out on faith. Like I go back to, oh, okay, I'll leave that one alone. I go back to so many opportunities, especially even as a black and brown communities, where it's been on us to set ourselves free and step out on faith, but fear from society, from institutions, um, have prevented us from stepping out on faith, and have put that carrot out for us, postponing our freedom, postponing our liberation, postponing our joy, postponing our happiness, postponing our rest, postponing our relaxation, um, until said time that we feel like we deserve it. We feel like it's due. We feel like we're worthy of it. We feel like it's okay now for that. Pat is saying lots of jobs are now expecting us to come back. Yeah, the interest the interesting thing for me is the job that I put my notice in, my last job. They've gotten to the point where they're corporate offices in Salt Lake City. And so not only are they requiring people to come into the office, people who they've hired over the last, like from COVID, the last 4 years remotely outside of Salt Lake City, they're requiring those people to decide that they're moving to Salt Lake City or they have to find another job. So I chuckled because there's no way in the entire hell I would have moved to Salt Lake City. Absolutely no way. So I was going to have to leave my job anyway. I also feel like um, Salt Lake City is a very white dominant area. The corporation is very white male dominant. And I feel like as organizations are moving away from this DE&I initiatives, that they weren't doing well in the first place, but now they have an excuse absolutely to not do them. They didn't want to do them before, and they didn't do them. They half-assed did them, and so now they don't have to do them. This gives them an excuse. So requiring people to move into Salt Lake City is going to get rid of a lot of the diversity that they were able to add to the organization as they went outside of Salt Lake City. And in my opinion, that's really where they want to go. Folks want to go anyway um, in this process. And I mean, we all know from quarantine that organizations can work just fine with folks working remotely. We've already proven that. They've proven that. Like during the time and when they were talking about, oh, this is working well, blah, 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 we're going to do this. We're going to keep doing this. We knew that wasn't going to last, but they can't say it. You can't do your job at home. We've already shown that we can do the jobs at home, but they want to restart the economies for in these offices, in these downtowns, and all of these areas where these buildings are. Some of them don't like their families, so they they want to be in the office away from their families, and they have to drag the rest of us who like our families and like being at home. So yeah, thank you, Lisa. I appreciate that. Um, so it is part of the plot to keep us in that cycle and not focused on ourselves and taking care of ourselves and taking care of our families. And we're um, pushing out our joy. We're postponing our joy. We're um, deferring our joy. Yeah, Nichelle says the only reason they looked is because someone detected a foul smell for the woman that was in the office. And interestingly enough, some people said they had smelled something earlier on, but they hadn't paid attention to it. They just thought it was something in the office. Like, clearly, nobody in that office was checking for that lady. For her to have been in her cubicle for 4 days. Nobody in the office was checking for the lady. I don't know what her friends and family were doing. I can't speak to them, but for 4 days she sat deceased in a cubicle. That is the personification of folks don't need to go back to the office like these organizations are making folks go back to the office. Um, yeah, they don't care. They absolutely do not care. Um, So Pat says nervous breakdown and admitted to the psychiatric ward. Anxiety, depression, all of these things that are results of a messed up society um, will have you in places like the psychiatric ward when really it's society. It's not you, it's society. I mean, for some people, absolutely it's in balance. I'm not negating any of that, so don't take it that way, please. But for some of us, some of this is societal induced. It is employment induced. It is all of the things that have us stressed out from day to day. And I I go back to some of the conversations we've had recently on um, finding your liberation, and what that looks like. For me, and I'll share it, and I'll continue to share it. You know, I keep saying my tiny house is saving my life right now. To not be in a situation where I have, you know, a high mortgage or a lot of house to take care of, even if, you know, from the financial standpoint, a lot of house to take care of and be responsible for. My tiny house is saving my life. And we've talked about, you know, tiny houses aren't for everybody. And so, but there's an opportunity for some people to downsize and to declutter and some of the things that liberate you in other ways. And I'm hoping that we're all taking heed to the need to do that. Um, Clutter, as I've shared before, has been connected to health issues, to stress, the overwhelm of clutter. Um, and you know, I'm just going to keep sharing how important it is that we're paying attention to our health, that we're taking care of our bodies mentally, physically, spiritually, all of the things, all of the leads, um, and that we're resting and that we're relaxing and that we're sitting in our joy in the present and not postponing or deferring that joy and that happiness to a later, to some said later date that um, may or may not come. And then again, when it comes, you may not even know what to do with it then, because you've been in this mode of stress and postponing joy for so long. You can't even recognize it when it's time, and you don't even know what to do with it. Um, Absolutely, Sandra. Um, so, Pat is saying that woman could have been any one of us. Absolutely. Um, and Michelle's saying she could have passed it home. Absolutely. Like, she wasn't that old. I think they said she was 60. So she wasn't old. And um, I'm only laughing because at 57, as my numbers creep up, I just remember thinking how people were old at 60 and stuff like that. And at 57, I recognize that ain't old. So that's why I'm laughing. I'm not, nothing about that woman. That's, as I was saying, she's not old. I think I've also shared with you all during all of my procedures, my surgeries, as I've been in the hospital, I have been surrounded by seniors, and um, I have had to recognize that I was right where I was supposed to be, apparently. Um, and so I am old people. As I got my Medi alert, the thing I've fallen and can't get up, as I got that button, because I live alone and I need some way to get some help in case I can't talk. The thing that I've always thought was for old people, I've had to recognize that I am old people. So she was not old at all, and should have been able to be cared for in such a better manner. Um, Patterson, we have to hold both her family and employer responsible. Absolutely. Um, I, as I, so I have recognized, and it's kind of the conversation Elizabeth White, who I had on here before, faking, what is 55 underemployed and faking normal. I've got her book over there. Um, we've talked about how so many people, as they're getting older, are more so um, navigating by themselves. And so, which is why the work that she's doing in co-living is so important, because so many people are actually alone. So, um, and their family units are small or sometimes non-existent. So I get that. But damn, like, just, it's a lot. Geraldine is saying it's beyond sad. Absolutely. Um, Letitia is saying she worked at Wells Fargo for 11 and a half years. And then the jobs were sent to the Philippines. Right. So how are they doing the job in the Philippines, but you can't do the job in said city in your home? Um, okay. Thank you. Absolutely. Yes, Michelle, if you live in a different state, like, yes, I can relate to that because as I move about in the world, like sometimes I recognize I'm places sometimes and there's not another solitary soul in the world who even knows where I am. And so I just shared my location with a friend yesterday, to have that on all the time so somebody might know where I am. Um, and so, Pat, so where you're saying it's no excuse for the family, sometimes, so we have to, I feel like we have to offer folks grace, because not everybody's family unit is, I don't want to say cohesive, but sometimes there are challenges in family units, and it um, is, I mean, it's just the reality of life. I can speak to that. It is the reality of life that not everybody has somebody, adult children, grandchildren, calling, texting, FaceTiming. Like, um, we have to offer grace in that because the family unit isn't, it is not a given that everybody has that family unit like you're speaking to. So um and I mean, I don't know why sometimes it's because everybody needs some damn therapy, and people are resistant to therapy, so it's not a given that everybody has that family unit looking out for them is basically what I want to say. Um, Bridget is saying, why do we give ourselves permission to not feel as good as we can? It is conditioning. Um, Absolutely, it is a conditioning. Um, Hi, Heartstring, welcome. Um, yes, Nichelle is saying the same thing, Pat, that I just said. I can understand that you are fortunate in that regard. Some people may speak with their families once a week or once a month, or they might not at all. Absolutely. Um, Absolutely. Thank you, Shay. Yeah, like and share. Thank you, Shay. Um, um, so I'm Pat, and I'll just say I am responsible for me. And for me, just I don't want to dip into this a lot. Everybody just doesn't have that unit available to them. I can honestly say that it was a challenge for me as I was trying to schedule my surgeries as to who was going to look out for me. Maybe you don't have people in the area. Maybe you're not as close to folks. Um, you never know what's going on in somebody's life or in their family unit, or sometimes family units are really small or the people in the family unit are older. So it was a challenge for me to even have care in this area, as I was having my two surgeries. So it's not a given that folks have that family unit. Um, Glorious Life on Wheels is saying we are so conditioned as women to put everyone else's needs first that we never get around to taking care of ourselves, often to our own demise. Absolutely, absolutely, um, absolutely. Nichelle is saying, who is trying to move to Salt Lake City on purpose outside of white males? That's purposeful, like what they're doing. They know who they want in the jobs. Absolutely. And part of my stress at the organization was, in my product department, I was I was the only black person. Um, And in around the product organization, um, there were a handful of black folks, and I literally mean one handful. And so, yes, it's deliberate. The stress of the DE&I organization, the DE&I stuff isn't required. And as I said to them, as I was experiencing issues, who is volunteering? What white person do you know is volunteering to go take a DE&I course to learn about how to get along with people outside of their race? If it's not required, they're not doing it. And even when it's required, we all know we take those courses and you try to skip through all of the questions and get to the end so you can get on with your life. That's what's being done. But if it's voluntary, they ain't signing up for that. You are, in theory, DE&I. It sounds good that we have the organization, but nobody is required to take it, and they ain't thinking about you. Um, Absolutely. A better quality of life at home. We're talking about the lady. Yeah, Bridget is saying no cleaning crew. That was also my thought. Like the cleaning crew wasn't supposed to go over there and empty the trash and vacuum and all that kind of stuff. Like, are we checking that they're really cleaning the building? But that also speaks to what we already know. Like, one of the other things, the other reasons I didn't want to go in the office is because it's dirty in there. Folks coughing and sneezing, and the office is where you got to wipe down your space, and you don't have a dedicated cube, so what are them travel cubes or some stuff like that, and so now you got to wipe it down with Lysol just to be able to work there because you don't know who worked there before. And so to your question, Bridget, is where was the cleaning crew? Nobody's paying attention. Nobody's doing what they're supposed to be doing. Absolutely, Shay. Thank you. Teresa is saying, not old but older. Um, I'm seasoned. I get it. We're older. We're seasoned. Um, um, yes, me too, Michelle. Me too. She's a fabulous person. I actually was talking to her on my drive home yesterday. So she's one of my favorite people. Um, um, One singer fool is saying, be careful about blaming others for the state of aloneness. Some people are very stubborn and don't let anyone in to help. That and sometimes you just don't have anybody to help that you can count on. And so it is not just the stubbornness sometimes. Sometimes it's just that you don't have people you can count on. Or oftentimes you're the giver and the doer, and the other folks are more the takers. And so when it's your turn and you need something, they ain't around. Um, I Those are true stories. Um, yeah. And Sandra saying, you would think with all the checks and balances they have for signing in that no one noticed you never signed off or back on. So what is the purpose of being in office? That's the main question right there. Like, they're supposed to be doing all the checks to make sure, and at Wells Fargo, they told us, swiping in, swiping out, they were going to be monitoring who was adhering to the requirement to come into the office. Clearly, that's not true. Clearly, that's not true. Phyllis is saying there was security around the clock. How do folks get away with not doing their job, regardless of the fact that she was found in an underpopulated area, but beyond sad and disrespectful? Like, I mean, it's Wells Fargo. We're not surprised. Wells, one of the things that was working for Wells Fargo was always, it was not one of the places that I advertised I worked for, because they're always doing something shady. Like, they're in the news right now for doing something shady that I saw. They're always in the news for doing shady stuff to black and brown communities. So we're not surprised. Not surprised at all. Um, I agree, Glorious. life on wheels. Sometimes folks speak to their members once a week or a couple of times a week. Absolutely. Hey, Key. I'm sorry. I confused everybody with my start time. I didn't get a chance to. I was um, with family yesterday afternoon. Then my power was out, and so um, my apologies. Um, absolutely, absolutely. Um, Cynthia's saying, I'm learning that people and situations I make a priority might make me an afterthought. I am learning to use discernment. And that's also, someone else mentioned not wanting to let people and family members down as a reason why we might postpone our joy. Um, and kind of a play off of that is sometimes we are postponing our joy because we're doing things for other people, not necessarily just letting them down, but we're so focused on what you just said, Cynthia, focused on doing things for other people that isn't even really our business. Like we're Christine the other day was telling us to be concerned about our profits and our pleasure, um, chiefly concerned about our profits and our personal profits and pleasure. Sometimes you over there doing stuff for folks and they didn't ask you to do it, as Christine said, and you living your life, taking care of other folks' business, doing all the things for other folks, and it don't have nothing to do with you. Your stuff might be in order, but because you're the doer, the fixer, and again, I'm not speaking on stuff I don't know. You're the doer, you're the fixer, I got all the ideas. I know how to handle this. I know how to fix this. I can help you. Um, you volunteering and doing stuff for other folks when you could be prioritizing your happiness and your joy right now versus postponing it because you're doing stuff for other folks. Um, yeah. Yes, I knew I had seen something about Wells Fargo in the news. They're being sued for interviewing minorities for jobs they knew were already filled. Listen, what can we expect? So we all know the banking system was built on enslavement. The money in the banking system is built from enslavement of black folks. That's where the money came from. That is the core foundation of the banking system. They all know it. It's a known thing. That's not a guess. That's not a supposition. That is fact. Fact. They have no intention on doing anything any better. You cannot expect that something that is built from something so horrid as enslavement. Um, Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, darling. You cannot expect something with the foundation of enslavement, the murder, the kidnapping of black bodies as the foundation of the money that starts this thing, this organization, this company. You can't expect anything to come good of that. You cannot expect that they're going to turn around and treat people better, especially black and brown people. You cannot expect any of that. So, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, every last one of them are going to keep doing all of the things that they do, and oftentimes they get away with it. Sometimes the stuff gets out and they get sued. This ain't the first time they're going to get sued. This ain't their first time. This ain't their last time. This ain't the middle time. We don't know the number because they're constantly getting sued, as are the other banks. Their foundation is rotten, and they're going to continue to be rotten. Um, and we can tie that back into the fact that um, we, the rottenness of the core of them gets us caught up into postponing our joy and delaying our joy, as Kay just said, um, deferring our joy when we know at the end of the day, Wells Fargo is looking out for Wells Fargo. And obviously, all of us can't quit. I don't want all of us to have a medical experience that requires you to be on long term disability, and that's how you get out. But I am hoping that we all look for the ways that we can back into our liberation, focus on our liberation, prioritize our liberation, prioritize our joy, prioritize our wellness, our happiness, um, rearranging your workday, taking some time out, blocking your calendar. I was queen of blocking my calendar. Block your calendar um, so that you can take some time. You can take some time to stand up and stretch. Um, Take some time to work out. Take some time to prioritize your rest because that's important. Um, Take some time to go to the doctor when something is happening and you are ignoring it because you got 4 meetings at Wells Fargo. The lady in the cube taught us, and we already know they don't care. So you have to care. Thank you, Bridget. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Um, you have to care. You have to prioritize yourself. You have to prioritize all of the things. And if it is taking little chunks of time, but damn sure make sure you're taking your PTO. I know folks who I don't understand it, but I know folks who got lots of PTO banked up because they feel like they can't take their PTO, or for whatever reason they don't take their PTO. That is a foreign concept to me. I'm taking PTO. I'm taking more PTO than I have if I can get away with it. Take your damn PTO. If you're Stephanie Perry, the Exodus Summit crew, sabbaticals. If your job offers a sabbatical, take it. The work will be there when you get back. The work is not going to go away. You feel like I got to get all these things done. The work is going to be there. Sister, the lady, I don't know shit. The lady in the cubicle taught us the work is going to be there. Wells Fargo did not shut down because she died in her cubicle. And she probably had 10 pressing priorities on her calendar that needed to be done. Nobody told her because they're good for giving you all the things that need to be done all at the same time. You don't know what to prioritize, but all of them need to get done, which is physically impossible. But she probably had several of those on her to-do list. And guess what? They didn't get done because she's deceased. And she might have been working through pain, illness, all of the things to get them damn priorities done. And she's deceased. Wells Fargo ain't shut a door. Wells Fargo didn't go under. Wells Fargo distributed them things that she had on her to-do list to the rest of the team, and life goes on. They might not even have sent a flower. Clearly, they let her sit there for 4 days. So, there are some things that we need to demand of ourselves. If we can't demand it of our employer, demand it of ourselves to carve out some time to care for ourselves. Um, Nichelle is saying one thing we can do is not put our money in Wells Fargo. I know most of these places are trash, but when they are, just open about it like they are. Absolutely. When I left Wells Fargo, um, before I even left, I'd already moved my money from there. I don't have money at Bank of America anymore. And again, just like you said, all of them are trash. But when they're consistently showing themselves to be trash, we don't have to support them. It is better if we don't support them. Um, when we talk about collectively, the impact that we can have collectively, those are the ways that we can collectively have some those are the things that we should be thinking about. Kay is saying, when this problem is over, then I can do this, have joy, delaying happiness and productivity. Absolutely. Um, and sometimes it's compound. When this is over and when I've done this, like it could be multiple things. You got 5 damn things you got to do before you can get to joy and happiness. I got to do this. I got to lose 10 pounds. I got to get this new job. I got to have this title. Got to get this car. Before I can go enjoy happiness. Um, or before you feel like you're there. You got to do all these things, and nowhere in there are you prioritizing yourself and your happiness. It ain't what we want to do. It ain't what we should be doing. And again, I'm not just chatting with y'all, I'm chatting with myself. Um, Pat is saying, what would happen if we all decided just to quit work for a day or a week? There have been those like no women go to work days and things like that, where um, as a united front, folks don't do stuff, and there's major impact. Um, I wanted that for the black players in the NFL to support Colin Kaepernick. If they had just done it one time, the NFL would have had to recognize, because they are the majority of the NFL. If collectively we were able to push past the fear of whatever the fear is, we could accomplish so much. Folks would have to listen. Um, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, Glorious Life on Wheels is saying, as you stated, Wells Fargo has a lengthy history and culture of shady business practices. As far back as 2016 or 17, when the employees were caught setting up unauthorized accounts in folks' names. So the interesting thing about that is absolutely true. The interesting thing about that, and I worked at Wells Fargo during that time, um, the folks who took the fall for that, so there is no way in the world that employees can just set up stuff without direction from leadership, from senior leadership. So it wasn't, so like if the employees were going to be setting up some, or doing something unauthorized, the employees would be doing something that would benefit them, not Wells Fargo. They just ain't no a team of employees gonna be like, let's set up these accounts so Wells Fargo can make some more damn money. No, if they were going to do something, it would benefit them. That came down from the top. That was to benefit Wells Fargo, so that they wouldn't have access to be able to do that without direction from leadership. They took the fall. Obviously, they made it seem like it was the employees doing something they weren't supposed to, but I was there during that time, and the things that came out from that, as far as supposed checks and balances in place to make sure things like that didn't happen again, that wasn't just um, employees doing, that was corporate doing. Hey, Rosalind. Um, so, yeah, thank you, Bridget. Thank you so much. Um, yeah, Cynthia said employed for 10 years when they were Wachovia. I also came from Wachovia and worked through the merger with Wells Fargo. And um, I, in my opinion, Wachovia was better before Wells Fargo. So yeah. Um, yes, Michelle is saying, had the NFL players actually stayed at home, the NFL would be a whole nother ball game right now. No pun intended. Absolutely. All it would have taken was one game. They didn't even have to sit out for a week. One game. All of them sit out. All of the black players on the team sit out for one game. Yeah. Kelly says, I was the queen of taking a mental day off at my previous job. The public school system will run you ragged if you let it. I'm all about keeping my peace and sanity first and foremost. If you ain't protecting yourself, who is? The job ain't. The job absolutely is not. The interesting thing for me, so between Wells Fargo and the last job that um, where I had the mini stroke, I worked for an organization for a year until they changed leadership and it went to hell. Um, and that organization prioritized you taking care of yourself, you taking time. People were genuinely good people. They cared about you. I had an amazing manager. I had an amazing team. For the first few months, I was just really waiting for something. For I was like, okay, this is my first 90 days, and they're all trying to be on their best behavior, and then after 90 days it's going to be on and popping. It never popped. These people were genuinely concerned about you. They would say to you, you don't sound good, you don't look like you feel good, take the rest of the day off. Leadership would block off their calendars, and they would be clear that people were not to bother people when you're on PTO. Don't call somebody and ask them a question. Don't message them. They're on PTO. And I had a year of that, and it was, and in a way, I regret, I regret having had that experience, because that showed me jobs, jobs can do the right thing if they choose to do the right thing. Um, and it went, like I said, it went downhill when they changed leadership and got somebody from one of those other corporations that don't care about you, and he brought that culture to this organization. But um, we had unlimited PTO, and you were expected to take it. You were expected, if you didn't feel good, if you were having, if you, and it didn't have to be a physical illness, if you just weren't up for it, take your time. And people jumped in, and it wasn't a thing. And that was amazing to me. Kay is saying too much empathy with me, or they ask, and you feel bad saying no. You've got to learn to be selfish. That's one of the lessons I have been learning. It's one of the lessons I talked to my therapist about, and have for years. It is it is the impetus for my tattoo right here on my hand. I talk with my hands, and I'm often volunteering and being empathetic and doing all the things and volunteering to help and do and all of that. And as I'm talking with my hands, this tattoo, you see, it's a heart covering the other heart. It is me protecting my heart. It is me learning to shut up. It is me learning to not volunteer, because folks ain't volunteering for me. And folks are going to take if you keep giving. I don't feel bad saying no. I think Pat said that earlier. No is a complete sentence. You have to learn to say no. You have to learn to prioritize yourself. Um, because if you aren't prioritizing yourself, you are delaying, postponing um, some joy for yourself, rest and relaxation, financial joy, if you're doing for other folks and not being able to do for yourself. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, Kay is saying the profits are more, or we were talking about um, Wells Fargo, the profits are more advantageous than the consequences, fines, as it's not just them, it's systemic and institutional. Absolutely. And sometimes they don't get caught. So they got away with it, and they made some money. So when they do get caught, like you're saying, the fines, it's a slap on the wrist. It's worth it to keep taking those risks, because they win for a lot of them. It is systemic and institutional. The core of the banking system is enslavement. It is systemic and institutional. They are operating as designed. They are built off of um, murder. They are built off of enslavement. So they are operating as designed. Um, it does. Absolutely. It is greed. So what are some things that you can be doing to stop postponing your joy? Um, and these are absolutely being able to say no without explanation. These are the questions that I'm asking myself, and it is like I'm in. Um, I have an urgency about it. That was the word, y'all. I taught y'all about recruitance. Um, recruitance is one of the the things. No, that's not the word. Aphasia. That's the word. Aphasia is one of my stroke. Um, it's not symptoms. After effects. I don't know what the word is I wanted. After one of the after effects, aphasia, and that is memory and word recall. So I will continue all to remind you all that sometimes the words are there and they just don't come. I'm okay with that because I'm here and I get to do this, and if that is one of the minor things that I have to deal with as a result of a stroke, I am eternally grateful. So y'all bear with me. Um, what are some of the ways I have an urgency about mine? Um, I was just getting ready to say that, Michelle. Defining your particular joy would be a good start. Everyone has a different idea of joy. Absolutely, it is. It requires some self reflection. It requires sitting still and reflecting. It requires honest reflection. It requires harsh reflection. It might pull up some tears. It might sadden you to know all of the ways that you are postponing your joy and happiness, financial ways, spiritual ways. Like there's so many things that are associated with that, and it's different for each of us. But the hard work of self reflection to understand what are the things that you are delaying until said time of when I do this, when I achieve this, when this looks like this, when all of those things that you are delaying to another time, um, that may or may not appear when you should be focused on that in the presence. So I have an urgency about mine in not continuing to do that because our clocks are ticking. Um, and so I hope that you will, each of us will do that work for ourselves to figure out what it is that we're doing, and to stop doing that so that we can um, be more intentional in prioritizing and not postponing our joy, because that's important. Pat is saying removing folks from my life that create roadblocks. People, places, and things. I always speak to removing. Um, I shared with you all a couple of weeks ago my um, poster in my house, my Nina Simone poster. Learn to leave the table when love's no longer being served, and that is people, places, and things. I don't go to places where I don't have to go to events. I don't have to go to the family function. I don't have to go to the work function. I don't have to go to the any function where I'm not going to be comfortable, happy. I ain't got to go for 10 minutes to show my face. I ain't got to do none of that. I don't have to spend time with people I don't enjoy spending time with, friends, family, coworkers. Life is short. I don't have to do any of those things that don't bring me joy. I'm not required to. And people get confused when it's family and they don't bring you joy. As we get ready to start approaching the holidays, and more and more people go spend time in places and spaces where it causes them unhappiness and anxiety, and stuff has not been sorted out, but you go and keep the peace. I'm not doing that. I can sit and read a book. I can sit and stare at the wall and enjoy my own company better than inserting myself in places or with people, or doing things that don't make me happy. So removing folks, people, places, and things, absolutely. Bridget has said I'm going to read Proverbs 31 after this call, and I'll take it from there. Learning to be spontaneous and impromptu. That's a good one. Because if you're like me, where things have to be planned and in order and all of these things, sometimes you miss out on opportunities. So absolutely, being spontaneous and impromptu. All of I'm not saying put yourself in a precarious position, but all of the I's don't always have to be dotted and all the T's don't always have to be crossed, for some things where you can just enjoy that moment. Cynthia saying, I'm learning to accept that I'm special and deserving of happiness. Absolutely. I've shared that with you all too. When you're used to being the giver, sometimes that's an uncomfortable space and people want to do things for you and support you. And I can speak to that. But I'm also learning that. Learning to not block people's blessings as they want to give to you, and recognizing that you're likely, even though you don't recognize it, which again, talking to myself, you don't recognize how much you just give. And so when people want to give back to you, you are supposed to be open to receiving and not blocking, because they're giving to you as a blessing, and you're not supposed to block their blessings. L, aka Lorraine, declutter your life of toxic people, situations, and environments. People, places, and things. Absolutely. When we talked about decluttering and downsizing, could tiny houses be a pathway to liberation? Absolutely. Decluttering is all of those things, and it's necessary. And it's not something that you do once. You have to continue to declutter. You have to refine the process, over and over. Pat is saying, not worrying about how your joy will be perceived from others. Just go do you. Like that's one of the ways we postpone our joy. We will worry about how things look, to other people when we're happy with it and it's something we want to do, but we're so damn worried about what other folks are going to think. And I relate to that at 100% in the tiny house journey and in the tiny house movement and in conversations that I have in my consultations with people. Um, Me, when I built my house, now y'all know 2012, when I was saying I was building a tiny house, people thought I was crazy. And it didn't faze me because I was doing what I wanted to do for me. That is kind of how I move. But, well, most of the time, that's how I move. That's the way I was moving about that. But I recognize that there are some people who, even with knowing that they're interested in tiny house living, they'll let other people talk them out of it. Um, or something, even outside of tiny houses, something that you're interested in doing, something you want, a way you want to live. You don't want to work. You just want to travel. I mean, you don't want to have a stationary place. You want to, as Stephanie says, bop around, and everybody else is frowning on it and think you've lost your mind. It ain't a journey. Not you can't be worried about what they think. I know people think I'm weird. I think I'm different. I'm proud to be different. I'm okay with them thinking I'm weird. Most of the time, that means they leave you alone. Um, Go do the things that make you happy, and don't worry about what those folks think. Cynthia saying, being the oldest, I believe that if I helped everyone else be happy, I would be happy. That's how you end up with resentment at some point when you start realizing they're taking and you're giving, and they're not giving back. Key said, I had a recurring image of me floating in a T position with a million wires extending from me and plugged into others. I was depleted of energy. I was exhausted. Um, that is such a symbolism of you're doing too much. You need to. That's extreme symbolism, but it was talking to you. Maybe you needed to hear it in that extreme way. Yeah, that's deep. I'm glad you took that time. Oh, it's 2015. I'm glad you took that time. Hey, WLJ, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Um, Sandra is saying, let's get hip to Social Security raising the age limit to over 70 to receive more money. That you may not live to be 70 and not get a chance to enjoy your life. Absolutely. Yep. Rosalind saying, building out my tiny house and doing most of the work myself has brought me a tremendous amount of joy. I love that for you. Same. My tiny house brings me joy. Um, I was in Costa Rica. I think it was 10 days, and I was happy to see my house. I've not had a house before that. I've always had nice spaces in interior that I enjoy, but it is just something about my tiny house that I look forward to seeing. And when I leave, I tell my house, um, I'll see it soon, and that I love it, which is probably weird as I don't know what, but I adore my house. It brings me joy, so I can relate to that. WLJ, travel safely. Key, I'm glad you're on your healing journey. Let them folks go. Rosalind, that's a key point. Rosalind says your joy will be upsetting to people who don't have their own joy. Um, no hateration in the dancery. that that phrase from Mary J. Blige. No hateration in the dancery. Folks will try to steal your joy, talk you out of your joy, make you fearful, tell you stupid, all of the things, which is their own fear and inadequacies. Um, or when they see that you look too happy and you have so much joy and they can't figure it out and are they don't have their own joy, then they want to bring you down, um, cause you problems, talk bad about you, all of the things. Let them. Absolutely let them. Yep. The same people you have helped endlessly are the same people who, when you get too much and get too high, will be looking to tear you down to the ground. Scared you won't have it to do for them still. Isn't it interesting how people feel they get to the point where they feel entitled to you or your money or whatever you were bringing to the table for them? At some point, they begin to feel entitled to that. When Singerfield, I'm sorry. Alzheimer's is challenging because it changes that person's so, and it often can be a very toxic situation, even though that you're trying to care for a person that you love. but because Alzheimer's is just changing them into something that is challenging to deal with. It's a tough situation. I have seen that, and I'm sorry that you're stuck in that situation. And I really hope um, you're able to get the resources and assistance that you need. That's beautiful, WLJ. Tanya saying, I'm so glad to have begun finding safe sister circles where black and brown embrace and welcome what looks different from themselves. Thank you all. Absolutely. Um, Something I was reading the other day and finding those spaces for you. Um, One of the things that we have to recognize as we're growing and as we're evolving, those some of those circles that have been constants in our lives, and they, again, friends and family, um, they start to change, and you have to recognize. And again, speaking to myself, you have to recognize as you evolve and change, all of those circles won't remain. As Rosalind said a few minutes ago, people who aren't on the same growing and evolving journey, or who aren't happy with themselves, um, if you're growing and evolving, that circle has to change because they can't hang around. And oftentimes that'll be the thing that holds people back, because they don't want to grow and evolve, because they see their relationships changing, and maybe they're not as close to the people, they're not spending as much time. But then you end up stunting your own growth. And what we have to recognize is that um, sometimes those relationships, those circles, those things have to fall away so you can get to the spaces and places and the circles and the people that can help you grow, or that can encourage you to grow, or that are on that path that you're on to encourage you to continue growing. And so sometimes we're holding on to things and holding in the process holding ourselves back. And so um, we have to be willing to understand and know that those things are going to evolve, um, friends and family. So I'm glad you're finding those circles. Um, oh, thank you, Nichelle. Nichelle is saying that's not weird at all. Some people actually give their homes a name. My house doesn't have a name, but I absolutely tell my house I love it. Um, One of the things that my tiny house has been a symbol for me, and Rosalind, I know you can relate to this, is um, prior times where I'm sitting stressed out about something that I need to do and questioning whether I can do it. Um, it is often interesting to me where I have to bring myself back into the reality of where I'm questioning whether I can do this one thing as I sit in a house, and sit in a sunroom space. So I've done it twice, where you build something from absolutely nothing. I built a tiny house from a travel trailer and made a house out of a travel trailer, and then have recreated a sunroom space. And these are things from, starting with graph paper and things that I just envisioned in my brain. And I'm sitting in them and living in them, and have been um, for 10 years. Um, those are the things that we have to recognize, the things that we do where we kind of just do them and we don't give ourselves credit for the joy or the achievement or the accomplishment that they were, where you just moving on because you kind of check, I've done that, now let's just keep moving on. Where you have to sit in those spaces and recognize and give yourself the props for your accomplishments. Yeah, so that's important. Linda is saying, "What's that in your hands? Is it your lipstick?" Oh, yes, it is. It is. That's what absolutely what it is. Um, Thank you, Linda. That's what that is. Um, I love that song. Bridget says, I just start singing to people. Everybody is a Star by Sly and the Family Stone. If I could sing, I would sing it. I love that song. Pat is saying, I'm sending grace. We need it. I have a tattoo on the back of my neck, and it is the kanji symbols for grace. It was, I got that after my 2007 experience with blood clots because grace is what was afforded to me um, at that time, and continues to be afforded to me. So we all need it. The um, it grace, absolutely. That's all I can say. Um, oh, that's beautiful, Key. Um, CZ is saying, I would love to build a tiny house. I don't know where to start. The land is so expensive. I've never owned a home. Apartment renter. Now I rent a $600, 600-foot adorable duplex. I am 54. So there, I have some of the resources here on my channel, and there's actually a playlist called "What's Your Question," and I speak to how to get started. So that might be a way to get you the information on how to get started. Most of my conversation is for tiny houses on wheels, but and so foundation building on foundation is a different process. But the how to get started, as far as understanding your timeline and your budget and all of those things, would be the same for building on the process of for the process of building on foundation. So there's a lot of information here on how to get started. I also have some workshops, and again, my workshops are mostly focused on wheels, but some of the content is very applicable. And then I do offer coaching and consultations if you want to go to that level. But there are some free resources, a lot of free resources available here, and that's the conversations that we have here. Absolutely, Kelly. Um, CZ is saying my rent was recently raised $200 a month. I'm a teacher and my job is exhausting. I need to make changes due to my exhaustion. You have to. Um, if I don't do anything else but encourage you to make changes based on health, having experienced a mini stroke um, 8 months ago, absolutely. You have to prioritize yourself and figure out um, the ways to prioritize yourself and your health. That's beautiful, Rosalind. The house name is Sapphire. Sapphire, I think is what you're saying. Oh, yeah, Sapphire. That's beautiful. Very welcome, Key. Um, Dauphiny. I haven't screwed your name up completely. There's a place in Lake Butler. They will build tiny houses starting at 20K. That's excellent. I'm not exactly the I don't know if that's on foundation or what, but that's an excellent number because those numbers haven't been seen for many, many years, just from the cost of supplies alone. So that's excellent. Thank you, Pat. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, good people. I thank y'all. Um, um, this is a beautiful talk. I don't always comment, but I want to say thank you, Jewel, and thank you, community. Absolutely. And I think I've told you before, if you're the same Desiree, that is my middle name, and I absolutely love that name. Um, so thank you for commenting. I love to see your name. I am going through a major life shift that has forced me to stop and sit down. am not used to being vulnerable and not having a plan, but this talk has helped me realize that it is okay to rest. Listen, Desiree, from one Desiree to another. That is what I've been talking about for the last 8 months. Being used to being in control and being in charge and doing all the things and not needing help and not needing people and not necessarily having the people that you can ask for help. It is an extreme place of vulnerability. Um, it is an extreme place of uncomfortable vulnerability. But if you don't put it out there, I feel called to share this experience because I don't want anybody else to have it. I think I shared with you all that a cousin kept saying to me that I share a lot on social media, and I knew he was saying it in a negative way, and it wasn't bothering me because I've seen the comments where people have said something that I shared helped them change. Um, it was beneficial, so I'm not bothered by that. Um, but it is extreme vulnerability. I can relate to that 100%. I'm not used to needing people. I'm the I'm the doer and the helper, not the person being helped. Um, but one thing I can say as a blessing is that if you don't put it out there when you need help, then people don't know how to help you. And the right people will show up. It might not be the people in your circle that you expect. Um, so keep pushing through the vulnerability. If you have an opportunity to um, use some services like therapy services to talk to somebody, absolutely do that to help you process that. And it is more than okay to rest, it is required. We have to rest. So please do that and take care of yourself. And thank you for sharing. Absolutely. Um, I pray that the community you're creating here is bringing you joy, not now, but right now. Absolutely. I think I say that every time we get together. That it brings me joy to be in conversation and community with you all. Absolutely. I appreciate you all showing up like you do. Um, it is part of my healing as I share with you all. It is absolutely reciprocal. So I thank you for that. And it absolutely is. I thought you were Desiree. I thought you were the same Desiree. I love when I see your name pop up. Um, Absolutely, Kitty. Wishing everyone the same. Thank you, Nichelle. Um, you did a good job, Rosalind. You did an excellent job. I hope everybody has a great peace and blessings. Linda, to you as well. Thank you, Daphne. I think I've said your name 12,000 different ways. I am sorry if I have screwed it up. It was absolutely not intentional. Um, I appreciate that. I have an Aunt Mary who some of you all, if you follow me, know I talk about her. She's 101. I love her dearly. She gives me the blues often. She loves me, so let me stop. She loves me dearly. She often gives me the blues as older people do. But she tells me all the time that I was named appropriately, and it makes my heart happy. When if an old person tells you something like that, you know they mean it because they have zero incentive to tell a lie. And so when she says something like that, I take it to heart because I know she means it and it's true if she's saying it. Oh, thank you, Gabrielle. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Um, Thank you, Lorraine. I'm appreciative of the new names and folks that are showing up. I hope you'll continue to show up. Thank you um, so much. Thank you, Pat. All right. I was going to say happy Sunday. It is not Sunday, it is Monday. Happy Monday to you all. Um, Go identify your joy and put it on the front burner and focus on it. All of our clocks are ticking and we don't know the time. And um, we have to. Oh, I remember, Angie. I remember that conversation. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for showing up. Um, we have to do all of the things to prioritize ourselves and quit um, postponing our joy and all of the things. Yes, my auntie is 101. And she's so funny. I called her to ask her on her birthday how she was, how it felt to be 101. She told me it felt just like it felt to be 100. And so I do it every year because I know that's what she's gonna say, and it just tickles me when she says it. So yes, that is my auntie. She is the reason I have hair because she was not a fan of my bald head. She did not understand it. She, for though all of those years, she assumed I was in some type of a crisis, even though I told her I adored being bald. She did not. She didn't appreciate it at all. So she is the reason I have hair, and she's because if I cut it off, I think I have to fight her. So anyway, that is my Aunt Mary. She's a lot. It's like having a 101-year-old child sometimes, but I adore her. Blessings to you all. Happy Monday. Happy, as somebody said, do no labor. Do not do labor today. Rest. I'm learning. You all learn. Don't postpone your joy. You need your joy right now. And so we're committed to that. Um, and I'm working on that in some ways and places to be in so that I can continue to reset my nervous system because that is my priority. And so I wish the same for all of y'all. Have a good week, and I will see you all soon. Thank you. Take care.